Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Denise Smiler, Chair of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. I would like to ask everyone to please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices at this time. Also, while masks are no longer mandatory, please feel free to wear one if you believe it is necessary or required for your own well-being. We have 5 board members present this morning, and Commissioners Dermody and Manzano-Diaz are present by telephone.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz. Good morning, Commissioner Dermody. I was getting some feedback. I'm good now. Okay, thank you. I would also like to note, in addition to the board members, we also have our ex officio members, Fred Strathmeyer, representing Russell Redding, Secretary for the Department of Agriculture, Adria Zimmerman, representing Pat Brown, Secretary for the Department of Revenue, and Jennifer Langen, representing Stacy Garrity, State Treasurer. Thank you, ex officios, for joining us. Okay, I'd like to now call today's meeting to order. As the first order of business, I'd like to ask everyone to please rise and join me in a recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. By way of announcements, the board held an executive session yesterday, Tuesday, June 25th, to discuss personnel matters, pending litigation, and to conduct quasi-judicial deliberations relating to matters coming before the board. I would also like to announce that the board has scheduled a public input hearing relative to the license renewal application of Wind Creek Bethlehem. The hearing will be held tomorrow, Thursday, June 27th, beginning at 10:30 a.m. at the Bethlehem Town Hall, located at 10 East Church Street, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, 18018. The public is invited to attend and provide testimony on the renewal of the Wind Creek license. Next this morning is the consideration of the board meeting transcript and minutes from the April 24th, 2024 meeting. May I have a motion to approve the transcript and minutes of that meeting?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the minutes and transcript of the April 24, 2024 meeting.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion's adopted. We will now hear from our Executive Director, Kevin O'Toole. Kevin?
Good morning, Chair Smiler. Good morning, members of the board. For today's Executive Director's report, I would like to offer a few comments about the most recent gaming revenue figures published by our Office of Communications late last week. For the month of May 2024, total gaming revenue from all sources regulated by the Gaming Control Board equaled approximately $521 million. Since the beginning of this year, monthly revenue has exceeded $500 million 3 times, and this past May's total was the second highest amount of gross gaming revenue this year, behind only the month of March 2024, which had total revenue of approximately $554 million. Gaming revenue for May of 2024 was 8.68% greater than the previous year's revenue for May of 2023. The catalyst for this growth in gaming revenue is clearly online gaming activity. Online slots, online table games, and online sports betting rose 26.15%, 18.58%, and 7.56% respectively, when compared to figures for May of 2023. Land-based casino revenue for slots and table games reached almost $298 million in May of 2024. But their percentage increase over 2023 were 1.55% for slot machines and 2.54% for table games. Despite the differences in growth rates between online casino operations and land-based casino operations, the land-based facilities with their full-service entertainment, with their hotels, with their significant convention and event space and other amenities, along with the casino facility having the newest slot machines and table games available for patrons, the land-based casinos have been positioning themselves very well for continued success. One final point that I would like to make: it is significant to note that the legislature, in approving the 2017 Gambling Expansion Bill, required in the statutory provisions of that bill an equal percentage of online slot machine gaming taxes as is currently required from the land-based slot machine gaming taxes to be allocated to the Property Tax Relief Fund. The property taxes was one of the key provisions back in the early 2000s that led to the passage of legalized and regulated gambling in Pennsylvania in 2004. It was probably the number one contributing factor to getting a broad-based bipartisan group of legislators to move forward and actually get past legalized gambling in Pennsylvania. And it's very interesting to note that the land-based casinos and the interactive gaming operators, they work hand in hand in partnership with each other to help revenue grow in both of those sectors. And to have both those sectors with respect to slot machines both contribute a significant amount to the Property Tax Relief Fund means that all homeowners in Pennsylvania, no matter where they live, are qualified if they submit an application to their local tax authority to receive a reduction in their property taxes. That concludes my report for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Now we will hear from our Human Resource Specialist, Joe Bott. Joe?
Good morning, Chair Smiler, board members. The Office of Human Resources has one motion for your consideration today relative to the hiring of one individual that was offered and accepted employment with the board between public meetings. Benjamin DeWeese was selected as a statistician in the Office of Gaming Laboratory Operations. Benjamin was approved for hire between public meetings by the executive director, having completed the background investigation and drug screening. As a result, Benjamin was offered and accepted employment with the board between public meetings to ensure that the board continues to address its regulatory obligations in a timely manner. As such, I ask that you consider the motion ratifying the hiring of Benjamin DeWeese. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the applicant for hire as proposed by the Human Resources Director.
Commissioner Hicker now seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next is our Office of Chief Counsel.
Morning. First agenda item under the Office of Chief Counsel report is a local law enforcement grant application, which will be presented by the Senior Chief Counsel Denise Miller-Schutty.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I have one local law enforcement grant here for your consideration, and this is the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. They applied for a grant in the amount of $250,000. If awarded, this will be their fourth grant. The grant is sought pursuant to the Gaming Act, which provides for the funding of local law enforcement agencies to be used for the investigation and enforcement of laws related to illegal gaming in the Commonwealth. In carrying out this purpose, the office is asking for salaries, rental vehicles, training, investigation operations, litigation costs, public outreach, storage, transportation, and audit and capital equipment. The application has been reviewed by appropriate staff, and this matter is ripe for the board to take action on.
Any questions or comments? If not, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickenell moves that the board approve the local law enforcement grant application as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next before the board today are 3 petitions. These petitions will be decided on the documentary record as the Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objections to the requested relief. The board has, in advance of today's meeting, been provided with all the documents filed of record, and these matters are as follows. The first petition before the board is a joint petition filed by Last Minute Mart, Inc., Shri Lab, Inc., Shri Kriti, Inc., and Shri Omakara, Inc. The petition requests approval of a change of control of 3 licensed truck stop establishments that offer video gaming terminals for play in the Commonwealth. Last Minute Mart, Inc. presently owns the 3 licensed truck stop establishments, with 2 located near Newcastle, PA, and the third establishment located in Portersville, PA. All 3 locations are currently subject of an asset purchase agreement, with each location being purchased by one of the Shri entities. All asset purchase agreements have been provided to the board staff for review, along with applications for licensure. Upon review, the Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to the relief requested, subject to conditions outlined in its answer, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant Last Minute Marks, Inc., Shri Lab, Inc., Shri Kritis, Inc., Shri Okaras, Inc., joint petition for approval of change ownership as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's adopted.
Next before the board is Celia Carter's petition to lift the suspension of her non-gaming employee registration. On March 14th, 2023, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a complaint for the emergency suspension of Ms. Carter's non-gaming registration after receiving notice that Ms. Carter was criminally charged with several felony and misdemeanor offenses. As a result of these charges, the board's executive director issued an emergency order suspending Ms. Carter's registration. Subsequently, the board issued an order on July 26, 2023, suspending Ms. Carter's non-gaming registration. In April of 2024, Ms. Carter filed a request to lift the suspension of her registration, stating that the charges against her had been dismissed. Enforcement Counsel confirmed that Ms. Carter's charges were dismissed and now has no objection to her request to lift the emergency suspension of her registration, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant Celia Carter's petition to lift the suspension of her non-gaming employee registration as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Dermody? Is he still on the line?
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Motion passes.
The final petition before the board today is a request for removal from the self-exclusion list. On March 21st, 2012, an individual with the initials DD placed herself on the list choosing the lifetime self-exclusion option. On April 3rd, 2024, DD filed a request for removal from the list. DD included with her petition a problem gambling assessment verification form executed by a certified assessment provider confirming that an assessment of DD was performed and that the problem gambling assessment showed that no treatment was recommended after the assessment. The Office of Enforcement Counsel filed an answer stating that it had no objection to DD's request for removal from the self-exclusion list, as more than 12 years has now passed since her placement on the list. And this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant DD's petition for removal from the self-exclusion list as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Hickenell seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, presenting withdrawals and reports and recommendations is Deputy Chief Counsel Chad Zimmerman.
Good morning, Commissioners. The next matter before the board today pertains to several petitions to withdraw applications or surrender the credentials of the following individuals and entities: Thunderbite Limited, Julian Wafflard, Samuel Levine, the Cordish Family 1 LLC, the Cordish Family 2 LLC, Christopher Justice, Sarah Butterfoss, Jonathan Hill, Joseph Scabetta, BDO Consult Limited, Christine LeBombard, Andrew Bimson, David Bolison, and Andrew Anthony. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to any of these requests for withdrawals or surrenders. As a result, if the board chooses to grant the requests, it would be doing so in every matter without prejudice to the requester. These matters are all now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board the board issue orders to approve the withdrawals and surrenders as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is adopted.
Next before the board for consideration are 9 reports and recommendations received from the Office of Hearings and Appeals. These reports and recommendations, along with the evidentiary record for each hearing, have been provided to the board in advance of today's meeting. Additionally, the persons involved in each have been notified that the board would be considering their matter today and that each would have the ability to come forward and briefly address the board. If any of the persons who are the subject of one of these reports and recommendations would like to address the board, I would ask them to come forward when their matter is called. George Angelo is the first report and recommendation before the board today. On October 10th, 2023, Mr. Angelo submitted an application for a non-gaming employee registration seeking work as a supervisor at a restaurant in Rivers Casino, Pittsburgh. On November 22nd, 2023, the Office of Enforcement Counsel sent Mr. Angelo a notice recommending denial of his application based on his criminal record. A hearing in this matter was held in February of 2024. OEC appeared and presented testimony and documentary evidence. Mr. Angelo also appeared and testified on his own behalf. Evidence presented at the hearing showed that in August of 2021, Mr. Angelo had been convicted of, via a guilty plea, corruption of minors, a misdemeanor 1 offense, after it was alleged that he had inappropriate contact with a 5-year-old female. He was sentenced to 3 years of probation with the first 9 months to be served on house arrest. Mr. Angelo testified during the hearing to his 8 years of service in the Army, and that upon the end of his service in the year 2000, he entered the restaurant management business. He further stated that he has worked at the restaurant in Rivers, Pittsburgh for 3 years without any incident and gets along with his coworkers. He further believes that he can contribute to the restaurant in a positive way in the supervisory position and would be an asset to the management team. Mr. Angelo further stated that the corruption of minors charge is the only incident on his record, and he did present a witness at the hearing who testified that she resided with Mr. Angelo at the time of the incident and says she was always around. He was never left alone with the minor. Consequently, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Mr. Angelo's application for a registration be denied, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that George Angelo's application for non-gaming employee registration be denied.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes.
The next report and recommendation pertains to Amanda Borelli. Ms. Borelli holds a Gaming Level 2 employee occupation permit and works as a VIP host at Live Casino Pittsburgh. In October of 2023, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a complaint to revoke Ms. Borelli's permit, alleging that she had violated internal controls specific to the issuance and tracking of complimentary services at the casino. A hearing in this matter was held in March of 2024. OEC appeared offering testimony and documentary evidence. Ms. Borelli also appeared with counsel and testified on her own behalf. Testimony and evidence presented at the hearing showed that Ms. Borelli has worked in the casino industry since 2010, holding both a non-gaming employee registration and a G2 employee permit. As a VIP host, Ms. Borelli was permitted to give patrons limited amounts of free slot or match play each day. Between May 24th and June 12th, on 3 separate occasions, Ms. Borelli exceeded the provision of authorized free or match play or slot play, which also included her issuing free slot play to a patron who presented a fake email. Testimony showed that her performance review of Ms. Borelli done by the casino stated she has the potential skills to be a great VIP host, that many VIP players show appreciation for her, but she must follow all procedures and protocols to be effective in her role. Ms. Borelli testified that she made mistakes but indicated they were not intentionally done. She testified that her intent was to maintain the loyalty of the guest, that oftentimes she was the only VIP host on duty at night, and that at times could have over 100 people seeking comp delivery or comp checks. Ms. Borelli further stated that the casino policy required at the end of her shift she log all the comps given out, but sometimes she would have trouble remembering everything and logging everything. Ms. Borelli also indicated that she has worked in the industry since she graduated college and would like to continue the opportunity to do so in the future. Counsel for Ms. Borelli argued that her admissions of wrongdoing shows that she has the honesty and integrity required to maintain a G2 permit, and the permit should not be revoked. After hearing all the evidence presented, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Ms. Borelli's gaming level 2 employee permit be suspended rather than the initial request of revocation as requested by the Office of Enforcement Counsel, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Amanda Borelli's gaming level 2 employee occupation permit be suspended subject to the terms which will be outlined in the board's order.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Tyshawn Harmon is the next matter before the board today. Mr. Harmon currently holds both a gaming employee occupation permit and a non-gaming employee registration, presently working as a games presenter at Evolution US LLC. In October of 2023, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a complaint to revoke Mr. Harmon's permit and registration upon learning that while working as a live blackjack dealer for Evolution in its live dealer studio, he manipulated the card decks to ensure that a specific patron would win. A hearing to address the matter was held in March of 2024. OEC appeared and offered testimony and documentary and surveillance evidence. Mr. Harmon appeared and testified on his own behalf. The testimony and evidence presented showed that during 6 hands of blackjack, during the shuffle, Mr. Harmon would place high-value cards at the beginning of the decks, ensuring that a certain patron would win, which resulted in a $12,421 loss to Evolution and its partnered casino. Mr. Harmon testified to his errors and that he stated he was doing what he had been taught. However, upon additional questioning as to whether he had been taught to place specific cards in the front of the deck, he acknowledged that he was not. Following a hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that both Mr. Harmon's registration and permit be revoked, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Apparently, Mr. Harmon is present and would like to address the board. That's me. You can come on.
Actually, please stand and be sworn by the court reporter. And would you just, you can sit and state and spell your name, please, for the record.
Yes, my name is Tyshawn Harmon, Tyshynnharmon.
Okay. Mr. Harmon, you would like to address the board?
Yes, good afternoon to all the board members. I'm here today to, first say I apologize for all the actions that I've made so many years ago. And I came today to assure you that something like this will never, ever happen again, and that you can trust me with the integrity of the game. Following this mishap, I have a proven track record of 3+ years in the casino as a banker and a dealer. As of right now, I have 2 games. I learned 2 games at Wind Creek Casino. I'm also right now under a third, and they're considering me to be a supervisor, a floor supervisor. So I do see, a future in this industry, and I'm here today to, ask for your pardon to be able to keep my license and keep my job.
Any questions or comments from the board for Mr. Harmon?
Yes.
Commissioner Dillon?
When did this occur?
2021, I believe.
is it, you weren't working at the current casino that you're working in now when this
No.
occurred?
No, this was my first like stint with casino. I joined Evolution. It was like the ad was like an acting job and things. Like I didn't know anything about the casino and like everything that's going on right now.
So you were let go from the first job. You went to
Live Casino in Philadelphia.
that you're at now.
No, I was a main banker at Live Casino. Right now, I'm in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, at Wind Creek Casino
Okay.
as a dealer.
Now, when you got hired, did you divulge this information to them that you had this issue at?
Yeah, I didn't know this was this serious, and this is why this I was like out the blue, because I worked at Live Casino in Philadelphia as a banker for about 7 months. My mom, in between, my mom was ran over by a car, so I had to go back to Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I still, I enjoyed my time at in the casino at Live. So I signed up at Bethlehem because it's like 15 minutes away from where I live, and it was perfect. And when I was taking the classes, 6 week of unpaid classes, I passed the class, I got the job. And when I was, they was like, it's going to be easy to get your license because you already have it. And I'm like, okay, they were assuring everything. When I got the job, they went to get my license, and then this occurred. And I talked to, I forget the name, the board of the directors, but he passed me through. He just was like, they're going to still investigate, the matter. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll go and follow through with everything. And then, that's where we're at now.
The individual that won the 12,000, did you know him? Was he?
No. So I felt really gullible, like with the whole casino thing. At a time, we're talking with coworkers. They were saying that we could, we were dealing to bots at one time, and they were saying like you could do anything you want with your shoe when you get comfortable. You can surprise people with. This is what I'm thinking. I could surprise people with things that I could, shuffle the shoe. When the event happened, like I still didn't know. I just got a call. They were like from a friend that was working there that I had a conversation with, and they're like, yeah, just don't come back. I'm like, all right, like why? Like why am I going to get any more information on what's happening? I called Evolution about 5 times. I actually applied to Evolution again because I was so unsure like what was going on. They hired me. They took me through the hiring process again, online, videotaped me, hired me. The day I was supposed to come for an orientation, the same thing. They were like, oh, we can't hire you again because you already worked here. And I'm trying to calling the main guy, like, what's going on? Like, why can't I be hired again? Like, I know maybe I might have made a mistake, but no one actually told me what I did wrong until I find out everything probably a couple weeks ago about card manipulation, shoe manipulation, which I have no idea what that was at the time.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Harmon? Commissioner Regan? Commissioner Hinkernell?
Okay, I'm not quite understanding. So based on what you know today,
yes.
After 3 or 4 years experience, what did you do wrong at that time that you wouldn't do today?
Well, it's not up to the dealer to make cards happen. Like it's literally the shufflers and everything. I was just like, I guess not thinking like I have no say on what cards come out of the shoe.
And you didn't know that at that time?
No, I mean at land base, this wouldn't even been like a thing. Like there's nothing. We don't shuffle the cards. We don't cut the shoe. We don't do any of that. So it was definitely a mistake. Visiting today, especially with the record at the track. I've made kind of a future within the casino industry, and I believe I'll keep going within it. And like this is kind of like a rain cloud like over my head these last couple months, even like since I've I guess joined the Wind Creek company.
So just one more question to follow up. So when you were going through the original orientation,
Yeah.
to be a dealer or whatever you're doing, they didn't, the folks teaching you didn't make that clear that it wasn't up to you to decide, which cards you were going to.
No, this is evolution. It was a week training. They didn't do too much. I'm not sure if you know about the evolution in Philadelphia. It's not the best like introduction to like this is casino life. You're in a casino, type deal. But yeah, it was more like acting. Like you're an actor. Like they promote it as you're an actor.
Commissioner Regan.
You're saying that you personally did not benefit at all from the actions that you.
No.
And you did not know the patron.
No.
That benefited.
No.
Commissioner Dermody, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz, you have any questions for Mr. Harmon?
Yes, I do. This is Commissioner Manzano-Diaz. Mr. Harmon, I just want to clarify. The incident happened when you were in Evolution. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. When you went to work at Live, did you disclose the issue to Live when you got hired there?
I did not. Because I wasn't sure about the issue. I wasn't sure. No information was told, but from a friend that was a supervisor there to not come back.
Okay. When you went to work for Wind Creek, did you disclose to them that you had a problem in Evolution, that you were dismissed from them, even if you didn't know the reason why?
No, this was about 2 years after the incident.
So neither Live Philadelphia or Wind Creek had any indication from you at the time of hiring that you were dismissed from Evolution, even if you didn't know why it happened. Is that correct?
That is correct. I believe that. I'm sorry. I believe that. Since they told me not to come back, if it was like something like super like, outlawish, that Live and Pennsylvania Gaming Board and everything, would be notified, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to work at Live Casino.
When were you first made aware of the problem that you had, the actual problem that you had in Evolution? When did you first know what the problem was? When did that happen?
When the problem was,
when you first became aware of why Evolution let you go?
Probably when I got hired at Wind Creek. That was the first time I've heard about the situation. Even when I tried to contact Evolution, apply again, there was no information. Even when I went through the whole interview process again with the same people.
So the first time that you found out what you actually did was wrong was when you were working at Wind Creek?
Yes, that this was coming to the Pennsylvania Gaming Board and that I'm being,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. Are you saying that when you went to work at Evolution, they didn't train you for becoming a dealer? You had no training?
No, we had a week of training as blackjack. They give us a week, and they pretty much just show us the basics because it's just pulling cards and following the screen.
So you're saying that they didn't tell you, you didn't realize after this training period that you just couldn't pick your cards? Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, no, I mean...
You could go ahead and pick your cards? You didn't realize that was not allowed?
Well, they didn't harp on that it wasn't allowed. Like I said, when I was talking to like supervisors and a bunch of coworkers, and for some reason,
Did other dealers do that? Did other dealers just hand they thought was appropriate?
Yeah,
not as the cards.
I mean, that's what I believed. I thought, that was their table. At the time, like I said, I didn't even know, like, this was like a casino, like real casino. I don't know. It was like we were dealing the bots at one time, and we were doing crazy things at Evolution. It was a studio, so yeah.
What happened when you went to work at Wind Creek?
Could you say that again?
Did they train you? Did you get any training when you went
Yes,
to
I
work
had.
at Bethlehem?
Yeah, they gave us 6 weeks of training. But live is when I came more familiar with the seriousness of land-based casinos and how casinos actually work.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
No problem. Commissioner Ralston, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. Mr. Harmon, I have some difficulty believing that you were that naive, and everybody knows how to play blackjack. Even if you weren't trained, you should know that you're not supposed to manipulate the cards. But be that as it may, we're going to table a decision on you until the end of the meeting, so you can have a seat, and we'll get back to you, okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next report and recommendation. Miranda McElhaney is the next report and recommendation before the board today. Ms. McElhaney currently holds a non-gaming employee registration and has worked as an outlet server at Parks Casino. She is currently employed as a games presenter at Evolution US LLC. On September 11, 2023, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a complaint seeking to revoke Ms. McElhaney's registration after learning that she had been terminated from Parks Casino, her prior employer, for mishandling funds. A hearing in this matter was held on February 27, 2024. OEC appeared and presented testimony, documentary, and surveillance evidence. Ms. McElhaney appeared and testified on her own behalf. The evidence and testimony showed that between June 8th and June 11th, 2023, Ms. McElhaney would ring up drink orders, void some of those orders, place money for the voided orders into tip jars, which, according to the hearing officer, after evaluating all the evidence, resulted in a $26 loss to the casino. Ms. McElhaney admitted to her actions, stating that the recent death of her daughter had affected her mental state and contributed to her conduct at the time. Following Ms. McElhaney's termination at Parks, she was hired in August 2023 by Evolution US as a games presenter. She has recently been offered a supervisory position, but did not accept that offer due to the current matter before the board. She further testified that she has not had any employment issues during her time with Evolution. After hearing all the evidence presented, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Ms. McElhaney's registration be suspended for a period of 3 months, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration. And as commissioners can see, Ms. McElhaney is present today.
Ms. McElhaney, could you rise and be sworn by the court reporter, please? And could you state and spell your name for the record?
Yeah.
Miranda McElhaney, MYRANDA, MCELHENEY.
Would you like to address the board, Ms. McElhaney?
Good morning, everyone. I just want to say thank you for your time. This is a very serious matter to me. My job is on the line, and I understand why we were here. And I just want to say thank you again for your time, and hopefully I can get some grace today.
Any questions or comments for Ms. McElhaney? Commissioner Hankinell.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Thank you for being here, and I want to offer my sincere sympathies to the loss of your daughter. Could you take us back to the incident that occurred over those several days in June of last year, and just kind of describe to us what happened, what you did differently those several days that you didn't do for the 4 years prior that you worked at the casino?
Yes, so I would make a drink, and instead of it being like a long pour, which is 2 shots, I would bring in like a small pour, which is 1 shot, so that would make it less money. And then I would bring it in, and then I would tell them the price, which would be like a long pour, and then the extra I would put in the tip jar. And then, or I would say, charge them for a beer, and then it wouldn't be voided technically. I would just not charge them, like I wouldn't put it in the system. So then it would just be in the tip bucket.
And why did you do that?
I was trying to make extra money.
Okay. So, but you were putting it in the tip jar. Did that tip jar exclusively benefit you, or?
No, at the end of the day, no.
Okay. So
I split it between 5 bartenders.
Okay. So, how much what financial benefit did you derive from that?
Nothing. I thought I don't know what I was necessarily thinking. I thought I was just trying to pay for a funeral, and I was just very overwhelmed. And I thought maybe this would help out. And then I only did it for a couple of days, and then I was just like, my guilty conscience was eating at me, like very, very bad. And then I stopped doing it.
And you had never done anything like that in the 4 years that you had worked there?
Never.
And you haven't done anything since?
No, I'm very honest.
The current job that you have,
Evolution.
what do you do there now?
I deal cards. I'm a blackjack, and I do infinite and roulette. So I don't deal with any money. I just deal cards in front of a camera in a studio. You
don't touch any money?
No, sir.
Deal with any patrons?
I deal with patrons, but like through
not face to face.
Computer, correct? Yes.
And your current employer is happy with the job that you're doing?
Yes, I've been there for I would say 10 months at this point, going on to 11, and they asked me within the 3rd month if I would like to be a supervisor. Because the way I carry myself, they said, and I knew everything was going on with this, so I didn't want to, go into that with everything going on. So I made them aware of what was happening, and I told them, like, we will figure it out, and I would give them an update.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Regan?
No.
Commissioner Walston? Commissioner Dillon?
Yeah, I have one question. So say we were to suspend your license today for a period of time, would you still have a job?
I would not.
Commissioner Manzano-Diaz, Commissioner Dermody, any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Commissioner Hinkenall has another question.
Sorry, Chair.
That's okay.
You seem very sincere to me.
Yes.
And I just have one question for you. If we cut you a break today, and believe as I do that this was a lapse in judgment due to a very, very difficult time in your life, can you promise us that you won't do anything like this again, and that you'll never be before this board as long as you're in the casino industry?
Absolutely.
Ms. McElhenney, I think you may have misspoken when you said you did not benefit from your actions, because the greater the tips, even if they were split, you still got more money than you would have had you not taken those actions, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so you did benefit.
Yes.
All right.
You are right.
I've been asked to table this decision until the end of the meeting as well, so could you just have a seat and we'll get back to you? Thank you.
Moving on once again, Joshua Lewis is the next matter before the board. Mr. Lewis had been issued a gaming level 2 employee occupation permit in November 2021 and has worked as a supervisor of surveillance at Live Casino Hotel in Philadelphia. On June 9, 2023, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a complaint to suspend Mr. Lewis's G2 employee permit, alleging that he had failed to comply with the special condition placed on his permit. Specifically, Mr. Lewis was required to provide proof that he was in compliance with a payment plan for outstanding fines and costs he had with the Philadelphia County Court of Common Pleas. Mr. Lewis did not reply to the complaint or request a hearing, and subsequently OEC sought a default judgment. The matter was first scheduled to be addressed at the August 23, 2023 2023 public meeting. At that time, Mr. Lewis spoke with counsel for OEC, and the matter was remanded back to the Office of Hearings and Appeals for a hearing. The hearing was scheduled for September 26, 2023. OEC appeared presenting testimony and documentary evidence. Despite receiving notice of the hearing, Mr. Lewis failed to appear, and the hearing was held in his absence. Following a hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Mr. Lewis's gaming level 2 employee occupation permit be suspended. The matter was previously then also scheduled to be on the March 2024 agenda, but was tabled when Mr. Lewis provided documentation of a payment being made on the payment plan. By way of further information, payments were not made in the months of April or May, but one was made in June. And this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Joshua Lewis Gaming Level 2 employee occupation permit be suspended. I further move that the suspension of Mr. Lewis' permit be automatically lifted when he provides documentation to the Bureau of Licensing that all fees and costs have been paid in full.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board is a report and recommendation pertaining to Robert Burkholder's request for removal from the board's involuntary exclusion list. The underlying facts in the matter are that on several occasions in May of 2018, Mr. Burkholder bent cards while playing poker at Lady Luck Casino, resulting in a permanent eviction. Consequently, on May 15, 2019, the board issued an order placing Mr. Burkholder on the list. On January 3, 2024, Mr. Burkholder filed a petition requesting removal from the list, which was technically early. OEC filed an answer objecting to the request. A hearing in this matter was held March of 2024. Mr. Burkholder failed to appear for the hearing. OEC appeared, did not provide any further testimony and documentary evidence, and requested an oral motion to deny or dismiss the petition. Following a hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Mr. Burkholder's petition for removal from the involuntary exclusion list be denied, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Robert Burkholder's petition for removal from the involuntary exclusion list be denied.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion adopted.
Next before the board is a report and recommendation involving another request for removal from the board's involuntary exclusion list, this by Devin Carter. On November 15, 2023, the board issued an order placing Devin Carter on the involuntary exclusion list by default judgment, finding that Mr. Carter had left two children, ages 6 and 8, unattended in a vehicle in the parking garage at Live Casino Philadelphia while he patronized a sports bar. On December 15, 2023, Mr. Carter filed his request for removal from the list. OEC filed an answer objecting to this request. A hearing in this matter was held in March of 2024. OEC appeared at the hearing and offered testimony and documentary evidence. Mr. Carter appeared and testified on his own behalf. Mr. Carter testified that when he left the children in his vehicle that day, his great-great-grandmother was in the van with the children, so they were not unattended. He indicated further that he had gone into the casino to get a cup of water for one of the children who had an illness. Unfortunately, Mr. Carter had no one to corroborate his version of events at the hearing, so his testimony went uncorroborated. Following a hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Mr. Carter's request for removal from the list be denied, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Devin Carter's petition for removal from the involuntary exclusion list be denied.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter pertains to the report and recommendation regarding Alfred Jackson. By way of background, on September 15, 2015, the board issued an order placing Mr. Jackson on the involuntary exclusion list by default judgment, finding that he had passed 20 $100 counterfeit bills while gaming at Parks Casino. He was criminally charged, pleaded guilty to those charges, and was sentenced to 6 to 23 months of confinement in order to pay restitution in the amount of $1,000. Mr. Jackson violated his exclusion on 4 separate occasions between May of 2016 and December of 2021. In December 2023, Mr. Jackson filed his request for removal from the list. OEC filed an answer objecting to the request, and a hearing was held March of 2024. Mr. Jackson failed to appear, and OEC made an oral motion to dismiss the petition based on Mr. Jackson's absence. A report and recommendation is issued recommending that Mr. Jackson's petition for removal from the list be denied, and the matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickenall moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Alfred Jackson remain on the involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The final report and recommendation before you today pertains to Jamar Kinder. In September 2019, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Mr. Kinder on the involuntary exclusion list after learning that he had left a 2-year-old child unattended in a vehicle in the parking lot at Harrah's Philadelphia Casino and Racetrack while he cashed out a sportsbook ticket in order to drink at the bar. Thereafter, January 2020, the board issued an order placing Mr. Kinder on the list. In December 2023, Mr. Kinder filed his request for removal from the list, stating that he has not entered any establishments, nor has he played any online sports wagers since his placement on the list. He further stated that because of his exclusion, FanDuel is restricting his activity online, and he believes that this is unfair. OEC filed an answer and objecting to Mr. Kinder's request. A hearing was held March of 2024. Despite receiving notice, Mr. Kinder failed to appear, and OEC made an oral motion requesting denial or dismissal of Mr. Kinder's request. Subsequent to the hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Mr. Kinder's petition be denied, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearing and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Jamar Kinder remain on the involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Do you want to take a break now or at the end of the agenda?
At the end of...
Okay. For the moment, that concludes the matters of the Office of Chief Counsel.
Thank you, Denise, Chad, and Steve. We will now have the Bureau of Licensing matters presented by the Director of the Bureau of Licensing, Sean Hannon. Sean?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Today's first licensing matter for your consideration is the renewal of a sports wagering certificate for Downs Racing LP. The Bureau of Licensing, Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement, and Office of Sports Wagering Operations has completed its review of the documents, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I have provided you with a draft order and ask that you consider the renewal of Category 1 licensee Downs Racing LP's sports wagering certificate.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant the sports wagering certificate renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, we have consideration of the renewal of an interactive gaming manufacturer license for Incredible Technologies Incorporated. Incredible Technologies is licensed in good standing as a slot machine and interactive gaming manufacturer. Under the Gaming Act, the board may use an abbreviated process to consider the application of a currently licensed manufacturer. The Bureau of Licensing, Office of Enforcement Counsel, and Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has reviewed the application for an interactive gaming manufacturer license for Incredible Technologies, and I have provided you with the results of that review. I have provided you with a draft order and ask the board consider the order to approve the interactive gaming manufacturer license for Incredible Technologies Incorporated.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant the interactive gaming manufacturing license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next licensing matter for your consideration is the renewal of the slot machine, table game, interactive gaming, sports wagering, and video gaming terminal manufacturer licenses for IGT. Formed in Nevada in 1952, IGT's principal place of business is in Las Vegas, Nevada. The company manufactures slot machines, table games, interactive gaming, sports wagering, and video game terminal products and associated equipment for use or play online and at licensed facilities and VGT establishments in the Commonwealth. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I have provided you with draft orders and ask that the board first consider the order to renew the slot machine manufacturer license for IGT.
The Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickenell moves that the board grant the slot machine manufacturer license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Next is the order to renew IGT's table game manufacturer license.
Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant the table game manufacturing license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next is the order to renew IGT's VGT manufacturer license.
Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal manufacturer license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next is the order to renew the interactive gaming manufacturer license for IGT.
Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant the interactive gaming manufacturer license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickenell seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
And finally, the order to renew IGT's sports wagering manufacturer license.
Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickenell moves that the board grant the sports wagering manufacturer license renewal as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Next, there are principal, key employee, and qualifier licenses. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with a proposed order for 30 principals, 6 key employees, and 2 qualifiers. I ask the board consider the order approving these licenses.
The Office of Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant the principal, key employee, and qualifier license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
There are also principal and key employee temporary credentials. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with an order regarding the issuance of temporary credentials for 13 principals and 11 key employees. I ask the board consider the order approving these credentials.
The Office of Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant the temporary principal and key employee credentials as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Additionally, for your consideration are gaming employee permits and non-gaming employee registrations. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a list of 543 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted temporary or full occupation permits and 217 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted registrations under the authority delegated to the Bureau of Licensing. I ask that the board consider a motion approving this order.
The Office of Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the applications for gaming employee occupation permits and non-gaming employee registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickenell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, there is a recommendation of denial for 3 gaming and 4 non-gaming applicants. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with an order addressing the applicants, who the Office of Enforcement Council has recommended for denial. I ask that the board consider the order approving these denials.
Enforcement Council continues to request denial in each matter.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickenell moves that the board deny the gaming and non-gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter for consideration is withdrawal requests. In each case, the license, permit, or registration is no longer required. For today's meeting, I have provided the board with 24 gaming and 36 non-gaming applicants. I ask that the board consider the orders approving these withdrawals.
Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant the withdrawals of gaming and non-gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, we have an order to renew the gaming service provider certification for Huts Glass Company Incorporated, as well as initially certify FSG Services LLC. I have provided you with a draft order and ask the board consider the order certifying these companies.
Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the gaming service provider certifications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
And finally, for your consideration, are gaming service provider registrations. The Bureau of Licensing provides you with an order and an attached list of 6 registered gaming service provider applicants. Ask that the board consider the order registering these gaming service providers.
The Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the gaming service provider registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sean. Next is the Office of Enforcement Counsel, Cyrus Petrie. Cyrus?
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. The Office of Enforcement Counsel will present 17 matters today for the board's consideration, in which we will request the approval of 1 consent agreement, 5 revocations, and 11 involuntary exclusions. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Category 2 licensee Stadium Casino RE LLC, doing business as Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. The matter will be presented by Deputy Enforcement Counsel Dustin Miller. Representatives for Live are present, and at this time I request that those individuals please introduce themselves for the record, and that any non-attorney witnesses please stand and be sworn.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Tom Deal, VP of Legal of Stadium Casino RE LLC. To my left is Craig Clark, Executive Vice President and General Manager of Stadium Casino.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Smiler and members of the board. My name is Rich Cooper. I'm Counsel and Vice President of Regulatory at FanDuel. To my left is Liam Butler, Regional Director of FanDuel Sportsbook.
So any non-attorneys, please?
Yes, we'll need Mr. Clark and Mr. Butler sworn in, please.
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Good morning, Chair Smiler, members of the board. Dustin Miller on behalf of the Office of Enforcement Counsel, MILLER. The next matter is a proposed consent agreement which involves the acceptance of retail sports wagers by phone by Live Casino Philadelphia Sportsbook employees in violation of the board's regulations. On or about June 18, 2022, the Bureau of Casino Compliance was informed by a Live Casino Sportsbook employee of a $95,000 variance. The employee advised that a patron texted him on his personal phone asking for 3 separate wagers to be placed. The employee placed 2 bets for $37,500 each and 1 bet for $20,000 for the patron. The patron said he would be in that evening to make payment for the wagers. All 3 wagers lost, and the patron did not come in to pay for the placed wagers. The employee attempted to contact the patron several times and did not receive an answer. An investigation was conducted regarding the patron's betting history. 12 additional instances were discovered where the patron was not physically present at Live Casino Philadelphia when sportsbook team members recorded wagers for him. In total, 15 wagers were accepted on behalf of the patron in the amount of $287,000 or $287,421 when the patron was not physically present. 3 Live Casino employees were involved in directly taking or assisting with these wagers. All 3 employees' licenses have been revoked by the board due to these actions, and the patron involved has been placed on the involuntary exclusion list by the board for his role. OEC now requests that the board approve this consent agreement and stipulation of settlement entered into between the parties. The terms of the settlement include that Live Philadelphia shall pay a civil penalty in the amount of $100,000 to the board within 5 days of the board order approving this consent agreement. Also, within 5 days, Live Philadelphia shall pay to the board $2,500 for the costs incurred by the Office of Enforcement Counsel and other related staff in connection with this matter. If you have any questions, we would be happy to address them at this time.
Live Philadelphia, would you like to address the board?
Yes, we would. I've heard the recitation of the facts as presented by the Office of Enforcement Counsel, and they do align with the facts within the consent agreement. And on behalf of Stadium Casino, we agree to the terms as outlined in the consent agreement. Also contained in the consent agreement are the remedial measures taken by Stadium Casino in response to the events of June of 2022, which I would like to briefly outline for you. Upon discovery of the events, the individuals that were responsible for circumventing our internal controls regarding proxy wagering were immediately suspended and ultimately terminated. The casino conducted an investigation and submitted a comprehensive self-report to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board that shared both the details of the violations at issue as well as the conclusions of our investigation. In the direct aftermath of our investigation, we lowered the surveillance notification threshold for transactions that take place within our sportsbook to $10,000 so that there be increased scrutiny and transparency on transactions within the sportsbook moving forward. Because the perpetrators used cell phones in addition to text messages to circumvent our anti-proxy wagering internal procedures, we banned the use of personal mobile devices within the sportsbook area. In exchange, what we then did was issue company phones to the sportsbook supervisors that were essentially locked down. And by that I mean they contained the minimum amount of applications, apps, to do their job. And any type of additions to those applications would require prior approval by our IT department. In exchange for with respect to remedial training that took place, we immediately elevated the attention of proxy wagering with respect to our sportsbook employees, requiring them to also codify that into a read and sign acknowledgement memorandum to kind of reinforce that and have that continue to be part of our culture moving forward. At this time, what I would like to do is provide an opportunity to Mr. Clark, who's sitting at my left, to be able to make a brief statement.
Yeah, I just want to make a statement to the board that this is not the culture of our organization. We have a culture of compliance and training. And these are obviously violations of the gaming reg as well as our training procedures and our internal controls, and apologize for this occurrence in these three employees going off into a rogue manner. And we'll entertain any questions that you have. We also have our business partner, FanDuel, here with us to be able to address any questions that you have for us.
Thank you, Craig. At this point, I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Rich Cooper.
Thank you. Just briefly, members of the board, just like our partner at Live, FanDuel takes proxy wagering very seriously. Just want to briefly outline a few things that were in place at the time, and also how we've doubled down on the issue since the time of this incident. So a couple of categories. First, FanDuel, just like Live, has a clear policy against proxy wagering. This was part of our procedures since day one of going live with the retail sportsbook. In terms of signage, again, every teller window has a clear sign about the fact that proxy wagering is absolutely not prohibited. And there are also posters up in the retail sportsbook with the house rules that include a clear statement that proxy wagering is not allowed. So for customers and employees, it is clear and visible that proxy wagering is not allowed. In terms of training, prior to this incident, all staff had undergone induction training where proxy wagering was a part of that, and where there was, again, a clear statement about the fact that proxy wagering is a violation and is absolutely not allowed. Since the time of the incident, we've doubled down and have done a few additional things. There are now quarterly trainings for the staff, which include sections on the prohibition of proxy wagering. There is a retail compliance checklist and regional manager visits that include quarterly inspections. Anti-proxy wagering is a part of that. There are regular internal control and standard operating procedure reviews with the staff at the location, and that includes anti-proxy wagering content. There's also suspicious activity training that occurs with some regularity of the staff, and that also includes sections on proxy wagering. So in short, we recognize that the importance of the issue, and we had strong policies in place before. We've doubled down since the time of the incident in June 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Just one question. Since that time and with all of the new processes that you put in place, have you had any issues with proxy wagering since?
We've had several attempts where people have tried to do wagering and then a different person has come in to obtain those funds. That's been discovered by the team. We've then put that money into safekeeping at our cage. So that gives me comfort that the policies and procedures are being administered the way that we intend them to be. So that gives me a comfort that it is working. And there's numerous occasions, as of even last month in May, there was one.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioners Manzano, Diaz, and Dermody, any questions?
I just have one.
No questions.
This is Commissioner Manzano Diaz. The question I have is, because these wages were very large, over $10,000, were any of these reported as suspicious activities to other authorities?
Yes, we would have followed our AML procedures and filed the appropriate documents for both CTRs as well as SAR report to the federal government. And we give a copy of that to the Gaming Control Board on a normal business activity.
So prior to,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Sarah. Prior to you making the changes with the $10,000, where I guess somebody's got to come in or look at it or something, so somebody could have came in and put $50,000 and nobody was going to be drawn or interested in a large transaction like that?
I'm sorry.
You said earlier that now there's a $10,000 threshold that you guys have implemented for somebody to oversee, but prior to that, there wasn't that threshold?
No, there was a different threshold. It was notification to surveillance. So there's certain gaming activity within the casino that sometimes it's payouts, sometimes it's wagering, where we want a second set of eyes on what's actually taking place and also a means of memorializing that through surveillance. So there was a threshold before, which I believe I'll get back to the specifics, but I think it was $25,000. It was a higher threshold, but the threshold was reduced to $10,000 so that we'd have scrutiny for smaller transactions. And specifically, what happens when the sportsbook employee is conducting a transaction, when it meets the threshold, they would give notice, specifically contacting surveillance, and having somebody from the surveillance team immediately put eyes on it and be able to record the transaction. So it wasn't necessarily an AML threshold, as Mr. Clark was discussing earlier. This was a security and surveillance protocol.
And I will tell you, in today's current practice, there's emails that go out of large wagers that occur. And then obviously I also get the surveillance reports at the end of day. I can see both sides that communication is happening on an ongoing basis today. Once again, giving me comfort that, what I see from the time of a transaction being placed to what the surveillance report will tell me on an 8-hour basis, they're tying back and forth, and I can have that visibility today.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Regan.
Just out of curiosity, the employees involved in this latest incident, are they at all benefiting financially, or this is just them taking a shortcut to please the clients? Why are they accepting the proxy votes?
Well, in the current today, yes. They're not accepting the proxy bets. They're taking a bet on one person's behalf and another person is trying to redeem that transaction.
Right.
And the control procedures are in place to identify them, working with surveillance.
Were you also asking for the actual event that took place 2 years ago?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
The event that precipitated you being here today. Is there benefit to them, or they're just not following?
We tried to connect those dots, specifically both from interviews as well as surveillance coverage looking at the event to see if there was money changing hands. To my knowledge, I don't believe that we actually saw that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the only thing that's documented in the material that I reviewed for today is that there was one time where a tip was given.
Okay.
And that was put into the tip box, which would be divided between the team members.
Tip jars seem to be a lot of problems today.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Stadium Casino RE LLC doing business as Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's adopted. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
The next 5 matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed complaints seeking the revocation of permits or registrations previously issued by the board. The complaint in each matter has been filed with the board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in each complaint. The individual named in each complaint failed to respond within 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each respondent. Therefore, the facts in each complaint are deemed admitted. All filed documents have been provided to the board, and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. In each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate board action.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Sarah Kolesar, Kolesar, Enforcement Counsel with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the video gaming occupation permit issued to Jeffrey Dell. Mr. Dell was previously employed as a team member at CHR Corp. Rudder Store 20. Mr. Dell was convicted of violating 5 counts of felony disseminating photo film of child sex acts, 2 counts of felony child pornography, and 1 count of felony criminal use of communication facility. Mr. Dell is currently incarcerated as a result of his conviction, and he is not currently employed in the Pennsylvania gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the video gaming occupation permit issued to Jeffrey Dell.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moved that the board approve the revocation of Jeffrey Dell's video gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Once again, Sarah Kolesar. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the non-gaming employee registration issued to Carrie Frattini. Ms. Frattini was previously employed as a food server at Live Casino Pittsburgh. Ms. Frattini was acting as a server in the sportsbook of Live Casino Pittsburgh when she picked up a lost sportsbook ticket from the floor of the dining section of the sportsbook. Ms. Frattini then approached a table of patrons and gave the lost ticket to a patron who was not the owner of the ticket. That patron then went and cashed in the ticket for $270 and returned to the table and placed $100 on the table. Ms. Frattini then returned to the table, sat down, and picked up the $100 and placed it in her apron before departing the table. She was terminated from her position as a result of this incident and is not currently employed in Pennsylvania's gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the non-gaming employee registration issued to Carrie Frattini.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the revocation of Carrie Frattini's non-gaming employee registration for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Sarah Groody, Groody, Assistant Enforcement Counsel with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the non-gaming employee registration issued to Joshua Jones. Mr. Jones was previously employed as a game presenter at Evolution US LLC. Mr. Jones was criminally charged and pled guilty to firearms not to be carried without a license, a third-degree felony, and driving under the influence a first-degree misdemeanor. Currently, Mr. Jones has pending charges for a misdemeanor, driving under the influence, and 3 summary traffic offenses. Mr. Jones failed to notify the board of these charges in his guilty plea. Mr. Jones is not currently employed in the Pennsylvania gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the non-gaming employee registration issued to Joshua Jones.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the revocation of Joshua Jones' non-gaming employee registration for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Again, Sarah Grudy, Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the non-gaming employee registration issued to Whitney Nixon. Ms. Nixon was previously employed as an EVS attendant at Rivers Casino, Pittsburgh. Since issuance of her non-gaming credentials, Ms. Nixon has pled and been found guilty of multiple criminal offenses. Ms. Nixon was found guilty of retail theft, a summary offense. Next, Ms. Nixon pled guilty to criminal attempt, theft by unlawful taking, a third-degree misdemeanor, and insurance intent to defraud, a first-degree misdemeanor. Finally, Ms. Nixon pled guilty to criminal mischief, a third-degree misdemeanor, and disorderly conduct, a summary offense. Ms. Nixon failed to notify the board of these charges and their disposition. Ms. Nixon is not currently employed in the Pennsylvania gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the non-gaming employee registration issued to Whitney Nixon.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the revocation of Whitney Nixon's non-gaming employee registration for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Kelsey Scorado, SCIRROTTO, Assistant Enforcement Counsel with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the revocation of the non-gaming employee registration issued to Dominique Lloyd. She was previously employed as a greeter at Jack's Bar and Grill restaurant inside Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. When Ms. Lloyd was not scheduled to work, she signed out a money bag from the chip bank and took it to the back of house. After visiting the restroom, she then put the bag in a locker and then left the casino. After returning several hours later, she put the bag in her coat and then returned it to the cage, leaving the casino shortly thereafter. $225 had been taken from the bag, and there is no indication that Ms. Lloyd made restitution. She was terminated as a result. Police were notified, but no charges were filed. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board revoke the non-gaming employee registration issued to Dominique Lloyd.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the revocation of Dominique Lloyd's non-gaming employee registration for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The remaining matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed petitions seeking the involuntary exclusion of individuals who are inimical to the interests of the Commonwealth and are licensed gaming therein. In each instance, the petition for exclusion has been filed with the Board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in the petition. The individual named in each petition failed to respond within 30 days as required by Board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each individual. Therefore, all facts in each petition are deemed admitted. All filed documents have been provided to the Board, and the matters are presently ripe for the Board's consideration. In each instance, if the Board orders the proposed exclusion, each individual's photo, personal identifiers, and a summary of the inimical conduct may be placed on the Board's public website. Once again, in each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate Board action.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition to place Neil Larimer on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Larimer deposited and wagered through $5,150 on the Twin Spires interactive gaming platform. Subsequently, Mr. Larimer failed or refused to pay $5,150 that he owed to Twin Spires as a result of his gaming activity. Twin Spires closed Mr. Larimer's interactive gaming account. There is no indication of restitution. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Neil Larimer on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Neil Larimer to the PGCB involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. John Crowe, CROHE, for the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next 9 matters on the agenda for the board's consideration stem from the same or similar set of facts. Therefore, with the board's permission, I will recite one set of facts, then ask for each individual to be placed on the board's interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list. The following 9 individuals each created multiple accounts on the Barstool Sportsbook interactive gaming platform using the personal identifying information of other individuals and funded those accounts with credit cards belonging to other individuals, then withdrew from those accounts into banking accounts controlled by the perpetrator. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Lawrence West on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of Lawrence West to the PGCB involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Brianna Baez on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of Brianna Baez to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Lunez Bruno on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Lunez Bruno to the PGCB involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Sean Cabell on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Sean Cabell to the PGCB involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place China Carr on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of China Carr to the PGCB involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Victor Chang on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of Victor Chang to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Divine Griffith on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Divine Griffith to the PGCB involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's adopted.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Eddie Mateo on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Eddie Mateo to the PGCB involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place Deshaun Pearson on the interactive gaming involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of Deshaun Pearson to the PGCB involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the petition to place William McLucky on the interactive gaming and voluntary exclusion list. Mr. McLucky utilized the PokerStars and FanDuel interactive gaming platforms to create 6 iGaming accounts using the personal identifying information of other individuals. Subsequently, Mr. Lucky failed or refused to pay $684 that he owed to PokerStars and FanDuel as a result of his gaming activity. PokerStars and FanDuel closed Mr. McLucky's interactive gaming accounts due to his actions. The Office of Enforcement Counsel now requests that the board place William McLucky on the interactive gaming and voluntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of William McLucky to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary interactive exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you. That concludes our business.
Thank you. Before we go into executive session,
Madam Chair?
Hello?
Yeah, I couldn't hear there for a while, Madam Chair. This is Dermody.
Hi, you're in the back room.
We're in the back room now?
stay on the line. They will transfer you, Sarah and Frank. We're not in the back room yet,
Stay on the
so
line.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, this is Richard McGarvey speaking. Can you hear us? You'll be live in the room again.
Yes,
I can hear you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My mic on? Okay, thank you. We're back on the record. It's 11:54. For the record, we are going to table Mr. Harmon for today, and he will be relisted. Shen Harmon.
And given Mr. Harmon being tabled, the one matter we have left, I would request a motion on the report and recommendation for Miranda McElhaney.
Ms. McElhaney, would you like to come forward again, please? Are there any further questions or comments for Ms. McElhaney? Commissioner Hinkernell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I mentioned this before, but again, thank you for being here. We're going to take into consideration your circumstances today, and I just want to make sure that you understand that what you did was serious, and it was a violation of the rules, and that we don't expect to see you before us again.
Yes.
You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
May I have a motion now, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the Board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Miranda McElhaney's non-gaming employee registration be suspended, but further moves that the suspension be held in abeyance in accordance with the terms which will be outlined in the Board's order.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion is adopted. Thank you, Ms. McElhaney.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so that concludes today's meeting. The next public meeting of the board will be held on Wednesday, July 24th, 2024 at 10 a.m. at this location. May I please have a motion to adjourn?
Commissioner Ralston moves that we adjourn.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.